with Chris Cuomo and Allison Camerata.
Good morning. Welcome to your new day. Up first, the House Intelligence Committee's Russia investigation grinding to a halt because of all the political infighting. The panel's embattled chairman digging in, refusing to step down. That's Devin Nunes. The White House denies it coordinated with Nunes to block former Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates from testifying.
Meanwhile, the Senate Intel Committee begins its first open hearing on Russia tomorrow. This as the president revisits the health care battle, predicting easy to get a deal. He is also touting that the U.S. mission in Iraq is going, quote, very well. But he never mentioned the airstrike that killed more than 100 civilians in Mosul. It's day 69 in the Trump presidency. Let's begin our coverage with Sarah Murray. She is live at the White House. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Allison. Well, it's clear bipartisanship is taking a beating in the House. They are struggling with how to move forward with their Russia investigation. But one thing is clear, both the House Intelligence Chairman and the White House are on defense.
Are you going to stay as chairman and run this investigation?
Well, why would I not?
House Intelligence Committee Chair Devin Nunes defiant amid calls for him to step aside from the panel's Russia investigation.
Are you going to recuse yourself from this investigation? Is that a no?
The House Russia probe effectively put on hold as Democrats accuse the chairman of stalling.
The investigation certainly has ground to a halt, but here's the odd thing. All meetings have been canceled. We're apparently not going to do anything until this closed-door meeting with Comey and Rogers occurs.
Nunes now saying the investigation will move forward, but only after a private briefing with the FBI director and head of the NSA, which has not been scheduled. The chairman under scrutiny for canceling this week's open hearing, which was supposed to feature testimony from former acting Attorney General Sally Yates, who was fired by President Trump.
It's evidence of a cover-up. There is no rational explanation for the cancellation of that meeting.
The White House fighting back against allegations that it sought to prevent Yates from testifying.
I hope she testifies. I look forward to it. If they choose to move forward, great. We have no problem with her testifying.
That's after the Washington Post published letters showing the Justice Department said Yates' testimony could violate presidential privilege, all on the same day that Nunes canceled the hearing.
Should Devin Nunes recuse himself from the Russia investigation? And two, do you know the source of his information?
No one knows.
Republican leadership standing by the House investigation despite growing criticism, with Congressman Walter Jones becoming the first Republican to suggest that Nunes step aside.
If the president puts Russian salad dressing on his salad tonight, somehow that's a Russian connection.
Press Secretary Sean Spicer on the defensive, offering a colorful comeback to repeated questions about the Trump campaign's Russia ties.
It seems like you're hell-bent on trying to make sure that whatever image you want to tell about this White House stays. I'm sorry, please stop shaking your head again.
All as the president continues to deflect, repeatedly tweeting about Hillary Clinton and trying to shift the focus back to his legislative priorities after a bruising defeat on repealing Obamacare.
I know that we're all going to make a deal on health care. That's such an easy one.
Now, the heads of the Senate Intelligence Committee are expected to hold a press conference later this afternoon. They have made clear they'd like to speak with Jared Kushner, President Trump's son-in-law, and a senior advisor about his meetings with Russian officials. They say he's likely to testify under oath, but privately, so we may get a better sense of what their timeline is, what their next steps are at that press conference later today. Back to you guys.
Appreciate that bit of reporting. Sarah tees up our discussion perfectly. Let's discuss with CNN political analyst and Washington bureau chief for the Daily Beast, Jackie Kucinich, CNN political analyst and New York Times deputy culture editor Patrick Healy, and national security reporter for the Washington Post, Devlin Barrett, who is the man of the hour, part of the team that broke the story that the Trump administration tried to block Sally Yates from testifying. Devlin, they say that's not true. Make the case.
Well, look, I think it's very simple. This is, a lot of national security stories are sourced, and so you have to rely on the reporter's sourcing. We published the letters with the story. Any reader can go through these letters and see exactly what they say, and they show that there's this back and forth that goes on last week about the degree to which any of her testimony would be limited by either attorney-client privilege or executive privilege. It's right there in the letter.
Right, but Devlin, that back and forth, correct me if I'm wrong, is between the Department of Justice and Sally Yates' attorney. The White House is sort of silent. They never weigh in on this. Am I right?
Right, except for the Justice Department. The last letter from the Justice Department says it is likely that executive privilege applies to these topics that are going to come up in the testimony, and so you should go talk to the White House about it. And so what happens is Sally Yates' lawyer then sends a letter to the White House saying, okay, these guys have been saying the privilege applies here. I need to talk to you, and if I don't hear back from you by Monday, we're going forward on our end. We're very comfortable with testifying. And what happens right after that letter is sent, frankly, is the hearing is canceled. So the deadline becomes moot, and there is no need to respond, and sort of this growing conflict just sort of comes to a dead stop because the hearing is canceled.
There was a March 27 deadline. You write it wound up becoming moot, and there was also somewhat of a tacit understanding within the attorney's letter that silence equals acceptance. If we don't hear from you, that means you're okay with it. We can go forward.
Particularly if it's canceled.
That's right. What is Nunes saying about why he put off the testimony then, if it's not because of the White House?
Right. So when he was asked yesterday, did the White House ask you to cancel this meeting? He didn't answer. The White House denies it asked him to cancel the hearing. And when he canceled the hearing, what he said was they're canceling it to have a private session with Comey and Rogers, as Sarah Murray said in your piece. But that hearing still hasn't happened. The Comey-Rogers meeting also hasn't happened. And there's basically nothing scheduled for a while, and everyone's just sort of in this weird holding pattern. The last thing, though, is that, you know, what the White House did yesterday by saying they want Yates to testify, that actually puts a little more pressure on Nunes to make a decision, make some sort of announcement as to what his next move is.
Well, look, Jackie, Devin Nunes needs to explain himself about why he, on a few different levels, but particularly why he canceled this scheduled hearing, because otherwise it gives the impression that, once again, he's doing it at the behest of the White House.
Right, it doesn't look good. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're sort of faced with. And since he said, he seemed to also imply it wasn't canceled, it was just delayed, but didn't elaborate. So it just raises more questions than it answers at this point, which is sort of his look for the week.
Well, you know, there's this ethical standard that we always talk about, and it always seems amorphous. Semblance of impropriety.
Right.
For those who are confused by it, this is what it looks like. This is the second time that Devin Nunes, at a minimum, second time, has done something that seems to favor the White House to the disadvantage of his own committee and this apparent mandate of getting the truth. True or false?
That's true. And right now what you're seeing is a circling of the wagons around Devin Nunes instead of answering those sort of direct ethical questions about fairness, about independence, impartiality that you're seeing. I mean, look, Chris, we saw sort of, you know, Manu Raju sort of stalking Devin Nunes, and he couldn't answer basic questions that Manu was putting to him about why hearing was postponed, what kind of impartiality he had, distance from the White House. You had Paul Ryan come out yesterday saying, we support Devin Nunes, you know, running this investigation. But that's kind of a circling the wagons and you know, a little bit of obfuscation.
Why wouldn't they want Sally Yates to come out anyway? The people only know about her in terms of her refusing to enforce the travel ban.
Right.
But that's arguably not even the subject of the hearing.
Feels, you know, this feels pretty bungly right now. I mean, I think there's a lot of people who feel like Sally Yates is ultimately going to testify under, you know, under some kind of arrangement, and right now it feels like a lot of sort of sandbagging going both ways. I mean, and it looks like, frankly, like the Republicans can't get their, you know, both the Justice Department, the White House, you know, Congress can't get their story straight.
So, Devlin, what could Sally Yates say in this hearing?
Well, what I've been told is that Sally Yates is, you know, obviously a key point of interest is what was Yates' conversation with the White House when she went to warn them about the issue of possible blackmail of Michael Flynn, of the former National Security Advisor, because his statements regarding his contacts with the Russian ambassador didn't match up with what was actually picked up about those conversations. And so what I'm told is that some of what she would say, and like as Patrick pointed out, likely will say at some point somewhere, is that some of the White House statements about that conversation just simply aren't correct.
Okay, yeah, that sounds important. I mean, that sounds like something this week would be helpful to hear if it hadn't been canceled.
Right, right. And as much as the White House has tried to sort of frame, you know, Sally Yates to, not the White House maybe, but I mean the Republicans as kind of a partisan, as you know, you know, Barack Obama holdover. You know, at the end of the day, she's going to be able to go to the Hill and say, this is what we saw. And
all right, so let's think it through. Jackie Kucinich, Sally Yates comes in and says, I went to the White House. I told them there's a mismatch here. You better deal with it. The White House wound up forcing Flynn to resign. Some would say they didn't even need to do that. So what do they fear here in terms of exposure?
They don't want to talk about Michael Flynn anymore. They don't want to talk about. I mean, look at the answers that Sean Spicer gave yesterday when he was asked about Russia again. They don't want to talk about this. You heard the frustration. You saw the frustration. So the idea that new information could be coming out that makes it look like the White House, again, isn't being straight with the American people, because it has nothing to do with the media, has everything to do with what they're saying to explain themselves to the American people. And one of the biggest issues with this whole Russia debacle is that they're not putting everything out there. It's drip, drip, dripping out, and it turns out here and there, there are these turns where the White House just isn't telling the truth.
Because they say there's nothing there. They say the drip, drip, drip you hear is of dressing.
There's Russian dressing.
It's Russian dressing.
Let's play it. Why not?
But April Ryan's question was a very fair one. It was about image and how Sean Spicer is the White House going to deal with this. Drip, drip, drip is a real phenomenon in Washington. It leaves ultimately a stain. It raises, more questions than they can move on for. And going after April Ryan in such a patronizing way from the bully pulpit of the White House. I mean, anybody watching that video, I feel like any fair-minded person could say, why is he getting off of the facts? He can't answer the facts.
Well, you already answered it. She asked him a tough, straight question.
Do we have the April Ryan
he got angry and did this.
Let's play it.
You got Russia, you got wiretap, and you got.
No, we don't have that. I don't.
On Capitol Hill.
No, I get it, but you keep. I've said it from the day that I got here until whatever that there is no connection. You've got Russia. If the president puts Russian salad dressing on his salad tonight, somehow that's a Russian connection.
Look, it was a pretty decent line. I'll give him that much. Sure. But the reason that I make fun of him as Captain Credibility is this wiretapping thing was wholly birthed by the President of the United States, who had the ability to get the answer immediately and didn't because they wanted a distraction. You know what? They got it. Kudos to you. You found a way to distract people for a little while. But did he go too far in terms of how he dealt with April? People are taking offense to him saying, stop shaking your head. He's been offensive to a lot of reporters, to be honest.
It just seems like decorum is out the window, and perhaps it has been from the very beginning.
When he doesn't like what's going on, when he can't handle it.
When he doesn't like what's going on. I mean, we talked about this earlier. He called a reporter an idiot with no sources earlier this week. Just the lack of professionalism at this point, it comes from the top. This is something that the put-downs, the slams, we've seen that from Donald Trump himself, and it's permeating the rest of the administration at this point, publicly.
Devlin, very quickly, is it your impression that Sally Yates will ever testify in an open hearing?
Well, yeah, I think she probably will, because, look, this whole process has only raised the stakes on this, right? This may not have been the be-all and end-all hearing, but when it finally happens, we're probably going to treat it as such because there was such a back and forth just over having the hearing in the first place.
The irony that the White House, coming strong the way Spicer did, will probably make it more likely than ever that we'll get to hear from her.
Devlin, thanks so much for sharing your reporting with us. Thanks to you guys as well on the panel.
All right, there are other partisan battles going on, namely that over Supreme Court nominee Neil Gorsuch. Will it go nuclear? Will the Republicans have to blow up the filibuster? And what would that mean? If they can't get 60 votes, what will we see? CNN's Suzanne Malveaux live on Capitol Hill with more. What do you know?
Good morning, Chris. Well, it is certainly game on for the Supreme Court nomination. We heard from Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who's laying down the gauntlet, saying that on Monday, the Senate Judiciary Committee will go ahead and vote on Gorsuch. That will set the stage for next Friday for the full House. He not only predicts that the vote's going to happen, but the confirmation as well. It has led Republicans and Democrats to scrambling to both sides here. Now, the Democrats, they are committing now to the filibuster. There are 27 of them who are committed, yes, they will filibuster. 2 of them say no at this point. Republicans very much aware of those numbers. They need 60 to break that filibuster. They've got 52 as a majority in the Senate. They are looking at the 8 Democrats who perhaps they can turn to say no. There are about a dozen or so that they are targeting that are from red states or Trump-friendly states, so they are working on them. At the same time, the Republican leadership has now announced, saying yes, they are going to use that nuclear option to change the rules from the 60-vote threshold to 51 to make sure that Gorsuch gets that up or down vote.
And it's going to be a real uphill climb for him to get those 60 votes. If a judge can't meet, a nominee can't meet the 60-vote standard, you don't change the rules.
No Supreme Court justice has ever been stopped with a partisan filibuster. That is obviously what the Democratic leader has announced they will do. We are optimistic that they will not be successful.
And of course, the aggressive PR campaign is in full swing. At 12:30, we're going to see on the steps of the Supreme Court members of the Senate Judiciary Committee who are going to be making their case for Gorsuch. Allison?
Hey, Suzanne, thank you very much for all of that. So the House Intel Russia investigation, as we've been telling you, it has been ground to a halt this week. Can it restart while Devin Nunes is still in charge? A Democrat on that committee tells us what he wants to see happen next.
Kevin, meet your father.
Kevin.
Kevin.
Kevin. Kevin.
Kevin.
Kevin.
Kevin.
Kevin.
Kevin.
Trusted advice for life.
Kevin, how's your mom?
Thank you.
Life well planned. See what a Raymond James financial advisor can do for you.
Hey, what's this?
It's a laxative. Sometimes I get constipated.
Really?
I like Senecot. Uses a natural vegetable laxative ingredient. That matters to me. And it usually works overnight.
Senecot, because ingredients matter.
There are those who panic when the market makes a move. But if you're like us, you know that focus and the drive to do more will take you places you've only dreamt of. We are Athena, and we are driven to do more.
With the TouchNote app, you can send your favorite photos as real postcards direct from your smartphone.
Hey, Mom. Sophie's first picture of you. How flattering. Love, Emma.
Simply choose your photo, write a message, and tap send. It's so quick and easy, and we mail the very next day. Go ahead, surprise someone you love. Download the app now or visit touchnote.com.
Commuters are cramming. Printers are jamming. There's plenty to grind your gears, but you could feel just swell. Get away. Get home away. From insufferably noisy hotel guests. A whole home so far away. Don't have to share with rental hosts that won't get dressed. These happy, carefree, paltry, wavy, hazy, lazy days when you're away. Book the whole house at homeaway.com.
Transforming data storage into an omnipresent force. Is that some sort of hocus pocus? No. Just the work of some wicked engineers who helped Columbia Sportswear elevate their infrastructure to the cloud. So product production and delivery could work as one powerful entity. Magic can't make digital transformation happen. But we can. That's the power of Dell EMC, part of Dell Technologies.
CNN explores a pipeline to terror. What makes an ordinary kid join the most brutal terrorist group, ISIS, and then return home? ISIS Behind the Mask, Friday night at 10.
Time Warner Cable is now Spectrum, redefining what a cable company can be. And now you can experience the full power of Spectrum in your home by adding internet and voice to your current TV service. Surf, stream, post, and game from all your devices all at once with Spectrum Internet, delivering the fastest starting speeds at 60 megabits per second with no data caps and a free modem. Just $29.99 a month. Call 844-548-1999. Then connect with family and friends near and far with unlimited nationwide calling and unlimited calling to Canada, Puerto Rico, and Mexico with no added taxes or fees. Get Spectrum Voice for just $19.99 a month when you call 844-548-1999. All with no contracts and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Get the power of Spectrum. Call 844-548-1999.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Intel Chairman Devin Nunes rejecting calls from Democrats and even some Republicans to recuse himself from the committee's investigation on Russia. Here's what Nunes told CNN's Manu Raju.
Are you going to stay as chairman and run this
Who applauded my dad when somebody said at the event, "Hey, Rachel's dad." Hopefully sooner rather than later. Thank you. Our show, and you will want to see that. Today in New York, the FBI and federal prosecutors from the Southern District of New York announced the arrest of a man who works for a Turkish state-run bank. This man has been arrested and charged with conspiracy to evade sanctions on Iran.
President Trump's campaign chairman.
The FBI and Turkish prosecutors from the Southern District of New York announced the arrest of a man who works for a actually over the top.
According to one
inauguration, my family has been arrested and charged with conspiracy to evade sanctions on Iran.
You know what? The Turkish news learned that U.S. Treasury officials following the money trail.
He's been arrested for those particular charges.
It lets them and us
and which is right now the Renato family. This
speeches secretly on the wire for money laundering. Working activity has attracted so many Russians. In fact, it's been dubbed intelligence. This is where some of the money metaphor comes from the Russian tycoon.
Point of personal privilege over. So that's an awkward thing for the administration. If the Turkish government was simultaneously going on tonight, we've got sponsoring an effort through one of its government-run banks, New York, today made as big a show as today, and also something that happened in Washington that is not at this point a criminal matter, but may eventually end up being a criminal matter. This is also awkward. I understand tomorrow, so these two big stories broke today. Secretary of State is due to go to Turkey. He's going to be in Turkey the day after 2015, 2 years ago. It was the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II. Because of what prosecutors are describing as it's not often that you celebrate the 70th anniversary. He was arrested of a honorary member of the Turkish government. My family loved you so much. But this is now 70th anniversary of World War II. Instead of waiting around for a more, obvious numerical milestone like the 75-year anniversary. I mean, people who fought in World War II are disappearing from the earth. Even the youngest of them are old enough now that with each passing year, you lose the opportunity. Honorary member did from my father in the 40. Honorary member of the Rachel Maddow family because my family loved you so much. But this is now actually over the. Honorary member of the Rachel Maddow family because my family loved you so much. But this is my family. Honorary member of the Rachel Maddow family because my family loved you so much. But this is now actually over the top. Like, I'm now ejected from my family.
Investigation.
Chairman Devin Nunes.
The most trusted is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
House Intel Chairman Devin Nunes rejecting calls from Democrats and even some Republicans to recuse himself from the committee's investigation on Russia. Here's what Nunes told CNN's Manu Raju.
Are you going to stay as chairman and run this investigation?
Well, why would I not? You guys need to go ask them why why these things are being said.
So can this investigation continue as you as chairman?
Why would it not?
Because
aren't I briefing you guys continuously?
So
but they're
keeping you up to speed.
But they're saying that it cannot run as you as chairman.
You got to go talk to them. That sounds like their problem. I don't have, my colleagues are perfectly fine. I mean, they know we're doing an investigation, and that will continue.
Can you just comment on why the Intel committee meetings were canceled this week?
Look, there's no, everything is moving forward as is. I'm not going to get into internal communications between us and the Democrats, but I would go ask them that question and have them tell you.
All right, joining us now is Democratic Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut. He is a member of the House Intel Committee. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning, Allison.
When we interviewed you last week, you were not calling for Devin Nunes to recuse himself or step down as chairman. You said that you had, in fact, found working with him to be effective. How are you feeling today?
Well, I'm feeling more puzzled than ever because we're in sort of day 7 of this saga of not understanding why the chairman took this intelligence, went to the White House, got this intelligence, did a news conference, talked to the president without briefing either the Republican or the Democratic members of the committee. And, not only has that resulted this week in the cancellation of an open hearing in which we were to have heard from the Deputy Attorney General, the former CIA director and the former Director of National Intelligence, but all of our regular business has been canceled as well. Ordinarily, we have on the first day of the week a kind of review meeting to conduct oversight over this and that. We were to have a meeting tomorrow. We've just been completely frozen, and so a lot of us, without any information from the chairman, are wondering why have the investigation and the committee been put on ice.
Have you asked Devin Nunes?
Oddly enough, he has not sort of communicated with us or, frankly, with his own staff and with the Republicans on the committee to give us a sense of where we're going forward. Now, we're hanging on to the fact that he continues to say, or at least we believe he continues to say, that he will explain the behavior of last week. And look, this isn't a partisan criticism. You've got Lindsey Graham and John McCain and others saying, I've never seen anything quite like this. And a lot of us have a lot of history with Chairman Nunes and consider him a friend. But, until we really get read into whatever drove last week's behavior, it's a little hard for us to, along with the rest of the American public, not make some assumptions about what is driving this very strange behavior.
Yeah, understood. I mean, when you say he hasn't sort of made himself available, what do you mean? I mean, is he present? If you knock on his door, what happens? Has he gone dark? What's the deal?
Well, there's just been no communication. Again, when he does something sort of as aggressive and as unusual as he did, and we've heard that story over and over again, and when there is the cancellation of an open hearing, and I understand there was a whole conflict about whether the White House did or didn't want Sally Yates to testify. The reality, she didn't. And when you cancel all of the ordinary business meetings of the committee, it's kind of up to the individual who does that to say, here's why I did that. And we haven't been offered that explanation yet.
Well, look, I mean, as you describe it, business has ground to a halt. You are in deep freeze mode. You're not doing the work that the Intel Committee is supposed to be doing. What more do you need to know as to whether or not your chairman can be effective?
Well, as I said, we need to understand exactly what happened, and we need to be made comfortable. And I think the American people need to be made comfortable that whatever happened last week, going to the target of an investigation. And again, don't take it from me. One of the reasons we didn't have another open hearing is that in the last open hearing on Monday, the FBI director confirmed that the FBI is doing an investigation of possible connections and links between the Trump campaign and the Russians. And so in that context, when the lead investigator on the Trump-Russia issue goes to the very party that is being investigated, that raises profound questions that need to be answered now, you know, partly to get the investigation back on track. But look, the oversight we do is terribly important. There's a handful of civilians, a handful of representatives of the people who are doing oversight of an operation that is $80 billion-ish in size, that is conducting operations all over the world. This needs oversight, and so we've got to get back on track.
Well, look, I mean, you make the most compelling case for why your work is so important. Given that, why aren't you calling for your chairman to step down or to recuse himself today?
Well, we Democrats have called, several days ago, called on the chairman to recuse himself from this investigation.
But you personally, are you part of that call?
Yeah, no, 2 days ago I joined Ranking Member Adam Schiff and a lot of the other Democrats in making that call. And again, I think, you know, make no mistake, we've always had a constructive working relationship with the chairman, so I think we're open-minded about if he were to call us into the offices in, you know, at 9 o'clock this morning and say, hey guys, I'm sorry it took me a week to get back to you, and I'm sorry this got played out in the media, but here's what I saw and here's what I did. I think a lot of us would be open-minded to hearing that explanation. But you know the universe. I mean, in the presence of, without transparency, without the facts, you know, rumor and speculation runs to fill the vacuum.
Yeah, are you ever going to be able to interview Sally Yates?
I will take Sean Spicer at his word. I heard him very clearly yesterday say he looks forward to hearing her testify, and I will take Chairman Nunes at his word, who said that the open hearing, which was canceled yesterday, will in fact be rescheduled. So I'm going to take these folks at their word.
And if Jim Comey comes back, what other question, burning question, do you have for him?
Well, apparently, again, remember that the open hearing got canceled yesterday because apparently it was really urgent that we hear in closed session from Jim Comey and from Mike Rogers. That's what the chairman said. Now, oddly, the proposed meeting time was exactly the same time as the open hearing, and then when, for whatever reasons, Rogers and Comey did not come yesterday, lo and behold, the open hearing was not rescheduled. So again, I'm going to take Chairman Nunes at his word that it is very important for us to sit down with those two. I don't know why. Again, you know, Chairman Nunes has not told us why it is so important, but I'll take him at his word and hope that that happens.
Do you think that there's any possibility that Chairman Nunes is acting at the behest of the White House?
You know, when you ask about possibilities, let's look at the circumstantial evidence, right? And again, I want to start from the fact that until last week he was a constructive part of the investigation. But, you know, he is close to the president. He was a member of the transition team. On a couple of occasions he's concerned us. He of course, along with Senator Burr on the Senate side, was part of trying to knock down a New York Times story that the administration did not like. And yeah, when somebody takes information in the middle of an investigation to the very people who are being investigated, you've got to, again, you sort of hate, if you're trying to be calm and balanced about an investigation, you hate to jump to conclusions, but my gosh, that looks suspicious.
Congressman Jim Himes, thank you for being on New Day. Nice to talk to you.
Thanks, Allison.
Chris.
Circumstantial evidence, you can look at the direct evidence with what's going on there right now. So you're going to have to brace yourselves for a supreme showdown. Democrats and Republicans are digging in their heels over confirming Trump's Supreme Court nominee. This isn't so much about how the Democrats or Republicans feel about Gorsuch. It's about the process. So the big question is, if the Democrats filibuster, and it looks like they will the GOP go nuclear? We discuss next.
You can't predict the market, but through good times and bad, at T. Rowe Price, we've helped our investors stay confident for over 75 years. Call us or your advisor. T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence.
We needed to hire out on the open road, whether that's in the Accord or the Odyssey, with an available built-in Honda vac. So hurry into the Honda Dream Garage sales event.
Test drive the Odyssey or the Accord, the best-selling vehicles in their class.
Believer, Sundays at 10 on CNN.
A nuclear showdown. Sounds so dramatic, but could be a very real thing in the Senate in the coming week or so. Democrats are now more confident that they can filibuster Supreme Court nominee Neil Gorsuch, and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is setting a confirmation vote for next Friday, and he says they could invoke the nuclear option to get Gorsuch through. Let's discuss. Excuse me. Let's bring in Jack Kingston, CNN political commentator and former senior advisor to the Trump campaign, and Jennifer Psaki, CNN political commentator and former White House communications director under President Obama. Jen, you said good morning first, so you win. I will start with you.
All right.
How does the process of the filibuster work? What do the Democrats need, and then what happens?
Well, the Democrats need to keep the caucus together. You've seen Senator Schumer convey very strongly and clearly he has every plans to try to do that. A lot of senators have come out and said they will filibuster. This is a moment where I think Democrats are sending the message to people in the country that they're going to continue to fight for them. They're here in Washington, and they're going to continue to represent the interests of the people across the country. So I fully expect that they will hold most of the caucus together. And that there will be a filibuster.
All right, so now the X factor is when we put up that graph, let's put it up there for a second again. You see that you have 27 will filibuster, 21 unknown. Okay, so that's the space you're looking at, Kingston, because if they can get to the 60 votes, the Republicans, which would need some of those 21 unknowns, then this whole issue goes away and they get an up or down vote on Gorsuch. Do you think that happens? And if not, do you endorse McConnell going nuclear?
Well, I think the Democrats are going to drive right up to the edge of the cliff, and then they're going to have to decide that we really want to filibuster. There's only been 3 filibusters of Supreme Court justices in the last 50 years. The last one was Alito, and President Obama participated in that and later regretted the vote and said that publicly. So I think the Democrats are going to drive the car right up to the edge of the cliff and at the last minute probably say, okay, we've proved our point. But if they don't, I think it's a different time. I think what Mitch McConnell has to do is take a page right out of Harry Reid in the Democrats' book and say, you know what, we're going to have the nuclear option, we're tired of this, and we're going to get the Supreme Court nominee confirmed.
But Jen, Reid carved out Supreme Court nominees when he breached protocol and went with the nuclear option. I guess it was nuclear light he did. And the case for the Democrats seems to be, you did it to us with Merrick Garland. It's not supposed to be Gorsuch. It should have been Garland who got this hearing, so we're going to do to you what you did to us.
Part of it is that, Chris, and I think that's not a very effective message that is going to resonate with people across the country. You know, I was there in the Obama administration when we dealt with weeks and months of our Supreme Court nominee not getting a hearing. Incredibly frustrating. I think the public was frustrated by that. But I think Democrats have come out and they've made substantive arguments as to why they're not comfortable with this nominee moving forward. I think it's true, as Jack said, we don't know if Senator Schumer is bluffing on the numbers he has here, but it's clear that he's going to keep fighting for it, and we'll see what happens. And ultimately, maybe they will go with the nuclear option in this case, and then I think people in the country will have to make a judgment as to whether they're comfortable with that.
You know, a lot of this goes to the decorum right now between left and right. I want to play you something that's been called out as an extreme example of the lack of decency in our political dialogue right now. Jack, give me your take on this. Let's play this.
Fighting for the democracy. We're fighting for America. We're saying to those who say they're patriotic, but they turn a blind eye to the destruction that he's about to cause this country. You're not nearly as patriotic as we are.
So what does that mean, Bill? We've been listening all morning. We cannot. I didn't hear a word she said. I was looking at the James Brown wig. If we have a picture of James, it's the same. It's the same one, right?
No,
and he's not using it anymore. You guys are all wrong about
I have to defend her on that. You can't go after a woman's looks. I think she's very attractive.
But I didn't say she wasn't attractive. I love James Brown.